There's a very good biographical sketch of Bill Himes in your program, but Paul asked me if I would add a little personal insight into Bill, since I've known him for a couple of years. But the first time that I met Bill was, he was about 10 years old at our music camp in Eastern Michigan. Very smart young lad, a little maybe nerdy, but he was a ventriloquist and he played a harmonica. Now there's a good start for a 10-year-old. But shortly after that meeting, his parents were appointed to our corps as the corps officers. So I got to spend the next few years watching the most rapid development I've ever seen of a young person. He was growing intellectually, spiritually, and definitely musically. And a lot of that was due to the influence of Bandmaster Max Wood, who influenced a lot of us at Royal Oak. And so I watched that happen, and I saw the progression of his very young life, but still moving very quickly. Then he moved to Port Huron with his parents, so we lost him for a little while. And he continued progressing musically. He's beginning to write more and more music. And while he was in high school there, he even wrote for the newspaper. So he has multiple talents. After high school, he went to the University of Michigan, got his degree there, master's degree. Went back to Flint, Michigan, became a school teacher, and took over the band as a bandmaster in Flint Citadel. And then, with the Lord's leading, the Central Territory made one of the smartest decisions that ever made when they persuaded Bill to move to Chicago and become the territorial music director. The first non-officer music director was Bill's honor to be, and it was one of the best things that ever happened. As you'll see in your program, that meant that he was bandmaster of the Chicago Staff Band. He traveled all over the world, meeting all kinds of people, doing all kinds of things. It also meant that he was in charge of Central Music Institute, which I was privileged to be a member of his staff for over 20 years as the chairman of the vocal department, and I got to see firsthand the innovations in programming and in curriculum that Bill brought to the program, and it just made our kids in our territory just develop at such a rapid pace and so much better when they left than when they came. And so I've watched Bill doing all these things, and it's just an amazing time for me to watch him. But I want you to know that first and foremost, Bill is a very dedicated, committed Christian man. And that is the most important thing. Even in the CMI curriculum, the music was very, very important. But most important, his focus was on the salvation and the progression in their spiritual lives of all the students and the staff. That was his number one priority, even more important than music. And if we put it in the right position, then it all works out much better that way. So anyway, I've watched Bill for many, many years. That CMI was such a good program, and Bill was such a draw that he brought in people from all the territories, not just the Central Territory, came to our camp. Also people from many countries, from the UK, from Australia, from South America, from the Caribbean. In 1998, I had 3 students in my trombone class from Hong Kong. And they were terrified because when they left CMI, they were going back to Hong Kong, which next year was going to become part of China. And those guys wanted to make sure they got to CMI before it could possibly become impossible to do so in the future. So that was very special for them. We also had two students from Sweden who flew over to Chicago, and they didn't quite have the concept of how big America was. They took a cab about 50, 60 miles to camp. That's not the amazing thing. These 2 guys were in their 80s. But they came from Sweden to be at CMI because of Bill's program. So this is the kind of person we have as a guest tonight. He's a very, very special person. He's an influence, not just musically, but spiritually, on hundreds, perhaps thousands of people. And we're very fortunate to have him. One of the skills that he has that we don't get to witness very often is as a euphonium soloist. He's an excellent euphonium player, but we're fortunate tonight because he is going to come right now and play a solo entitled The Conqueror. Would you please greet Bandmaster William Himes.